Hi, my dearest of family. Here is your weekly general forecast starting on the 23rd of February until 1st of March. So, yes, we are already almost in the middle of the year. Wow, time is flying. The week starts straight away with asteroid Atlantis entering the sign of Pisces. This is happening on the 23rd of February. Now, Atlantis, if you would like to look it up where it is in your natal chart, its astrological number is 1198. And this Atlantis is connected to lost knowledge, technological hubris, and the feeling of being overwhelmed or flooded. So when it enters the sign of Pisces, which is the sign of the literal ocean, the collective unconscious, it really is being flooded, often by a lot of emotions, for example. Or, you might find yourself excavating old creative projects, spiritual practices that were buried that you used to do, and then you want to return to it. But Pisces has no boundaries. And hot Atlantis here can feel like it's a psychic flood. So if you have been ignoring leaks in your especially emotional life, but the practical one as well, then maybe Atlantis is not going to allow you to ignore them anymore. Now, Atlantis is also linked to the misuse of power, the misuse of knowledge that led to its sinking. So, its transit through Pisces asks us to use our intuition and hidden talents with a bit higher integrity. Don't just dream it. Ensure that the foundation is ethically sound so it doesn't sink later on. This actually could talk to us about, physically speaking, that a ship on an ocean is going to get a leak as well. Now, then we've got 2 days astrological break, and then the 26th of February is super busy. First of all, we're going to have Mercury turning retrograde. And the very first aspect Mercury is going to be making is a conjunction to Venus on the 28th of February. Now, I did make a video about Mercury retrograde already, so I'm just going to be giving you a short overview here, but I did break this down for the 12 signs as well, so you might want to visit the previous video that I posted approximately a couple of weeks ago about Mercury retrograde. But Mercury is turning retrograde on 22 degree of Pisces. And, this isn't a broken computer type of retrograde. This is more about secrets or leaked information from the last 11 month or 22 month ago may resurface. Pisces is where things go to be forgotten. But the retrograde here acts like a bit of a low tide, revealing what's been hidden under the surface. This is, Mercury doesn't necessarily like Pisces because one is intuition, the other one is logic. So the linear thinking, kind of shows up here as it would fail. If you try to force a logical conclusion, you'll feel like you are kind of like chasing a ghost here. This is asking you to trust your gut feelings and listen to your dreams as well. But like I said, this is something that I have broken down in much detail in a previous video, so I'm not going to be doing that. However, on the 28th, Mercury is going to be making the very first aspect, and that's going to be a conjunction to Venus. Now, this is the second time these two meet this year. The very first one happened on January 29th, but it was in the sign of Aquarius. So you can think of it, this meeting point between Mercury and Venus is kind of like a Cosimi type of connection. So it's about revisiting conversations with others. Maybe you need to think back to the end of January, whatever was discussed or initiated then, let's say regarding relationship values or finances, well, it's coming back for a second look. Or in Pisces, this conjunction is a bit more poetic or more compassionate. This is giving you an opportunity to make something right, healing the words, or sometimes it's about no need to speak. It's just I have to be feeling, you. But you can be reaching out to someone from the past, or you can offer a sincere apology, and they can offer you an apology as well. I mean, if you are working on a creative project like your books or a booklet or songwriting and so forth, this can actually indicate an editing phase as well. You might even realize that the design choices you made, for example, in January, kind of needs to be softened or reimagined, and so on. On the 26th, we are still on the 26th. We have got the Sun and North Node conjunction happening as well on 8th degree of Pisces. And actually that falls onto Gemini Dwad. Now, if you don't know what Dwads are, I believe I have a video created on that on my YouTube channel. You might want to look it up. I mean, this is happening on the 26th or the 27th of February, depending on your time zone. But the planet of purpose and the planet of path are coming together. So this would talk to us about an uncomfortable but necessary change of direction towards a better future. Sun is at the spotlight, illuminating exactly what needs to be embraced, because that's the North Node. That's our karmic path. This is about spiritual surrender with Pisces, compassion, dissolving the ego. It's about the reset of that compassionate nature. Because this happens actually on the very same day when Mercury stations retrograde. It also feels like it's a flash of divine insight, actually. Maybe you finally get a spiritual concept, or a creative idea that has been a bit elusive for a month. It kind of can start gaining a bit of a clarity. Now, this is on Gemini Dwad. So this is more of an intellectual coloring to it, to that otherwise very watery type of emotional sign. So it's kind of like I'm trying to make sense of my emotions. It's about merging intuition with communication. While Pisces is usually silent and it's a sign that feels, the Gemini what demands that these feelings needs to be articulated. It's not enough just to feel the vibe, but you are being called to write it down, speak about it, categorize it. And also, you can think of this conjunction as the messenger of the soul. So it suggests that the path forward is somehow communicated to you through dreams and meditations. And maybe this is also about teaching spirituality and so on. Gemini brings twins into the mix as well. So, it's kind of like you holding two opposing truths at once. One is very logical and the other one is quite spiritual. And you're going to have to be able to bridge them. So intuition versus logic. So that's the 26, but we haven't finished with the 26 yet, because also on the very same day, Venus is in sextile to Juno, and Juno is in the sign of Capricorn. So, Venus is exalted. So she is very potent right now. She's very compassionate, idealistic. Meanwhile, Juno in Capricorn is more of a contractual agreement. It's about long-term commitment. It's about the structures of the relationship, pretty much. It's about committing to a partnership. So it's a very interesting combination because spirituality meets stability. This isn't just about falling in love. It's about finding the beauty in the work process of a relationship. Pisces is dreaming about a soulmate, while Capricorn wants to build life together. It is about reality. So, a sextile gives us an opportunity here. So, this is about formalizing, for example, a relationship. It's great for proposals, getting married. It's about committing to a creative project, the Piscean dreams. This is pretty much giving you the green light to put a contract or a structure behind a creative project. Now, I can also imagine, that this is kind of like a seal of approval of certain type of financial negotiations as well, especially because Venus previously was making a trine to Jupiter, which I spoke about last week. So, yes, this is a nice combination here. Also, this is about something that I potentially promised to deliver, and I have to commit to it. So this can even indicate, Capricorn is very conscious about deadlines. Pisces can be a little bit more on the elusive side. So, oh, procrastinate, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then we can have a bit of a time crunch here. So, but this is about delivering something on time as well. Um, Now, on the 26th, we've got one more aspect, and that's Ceres and Chiron conjunction in the sign of Aries on 23 degree. I mean, Ceres and Chiron have been in the sign of Aries forever. Ceres, due to its retrogression, it's been there for a good 8 months now, and Chiron, of course, the last good 7 years. But this is kind of like the fierce nurturer type of archetype. Ceres is the great mother. She represents the cycle of losses and gains, and meeting up Chiron, who is the wounded healer. So it really is the medic type of archetype. This is about nurturing someone through autonomy. In Aries series doesn't nurture by kind of coddling or this type of stuff. She nurtures by encouraging independence, by nurturing by making you make mistakes, basically, because you learn from experiences. It's kind of like a toddler who is trying to walk. They're gonna have to fall down a few times before actually that's going to be, kind of like mastered, right? So that's where kind of like encouraging someone to make mistakes, at least trying. So it really feels like that this is about reclaiming your right to exist and acting on your own interest, acting on your own behalf. But of course, this is the wound of the mother as well. I mean, imagine that your child grows up and then they leave the family nest, and what I'm going to be doing with my own time. Chiron in Aries is about the wound of I am. It's the feeling that one's very existence or desires are too much or it's wrong. And Sirius comes around and then she says, "Oh, your survival and your hunger for life are sacred and it's valid." So this is about asking you to self-parent your inner warrior, self-parent the inner child within you. So I would call it as the aspect of reparenting. Maybe it's about looking at where your drive was stifled, for example, a little bit, maybe as a child or right now. And then how can I provide myself the motivation, the courage, the fire that you might have been lacking the last longer period of time so that it can get reignited. Of course, we still have got this Pisces folk happening, a massive stellium in the sign of Pisces. Sun, North Node, Venus, Mercury, Pallas Athene. That is pulling you towards surrender, letting go, dissolutions, mystical matters. But these Aries points now, with Saturn, Neptune, Ceres, Chiron, these are pulling you toward a brand new cycle of self-assertion, to feel pioneered again. So this is not necessarily the easiest chart ever. Now, on the 27th of February, we've got Mars in square to Uranus. So, of course, the Mars square Uranus is a bit of, it's not an easy aspect, let's put it that way. Okay. So, this is a breakout of something. This is a kind of like a hair is sticking up on top of your head type of aspect. It is a built up energy because we are talking about fixed signs. And this built up energy is disrupting something within us, especially if it's not channeled consciously. This is a conflict here. Mars in Aquarius wants to revolutionize, decentralize. It wants to be moving at the speed of the light. And Uranus in Taurus is, it's kind of like the immovable object, the physical reality, the bank account, the stubborn body, and that is being forced to change too fast. So it kind of creates this short circuit type of energy. I'm even going to talk to you about that. We have got an out of bound moon, which is going to start in Taurus while it makes conjunction to Uranus. But I'm going to come back to that very shortly. But this is kind of like an electrical surge. It's the desire to burn it all down, just to see what happens, or a sudden impulse to move, or to break free from certain type of limitations, or it can be a bit of a clumsy aspect actually, especially with Mercury being retrograde. It could indicate that we are distracted, we are moving too fast, and then of course it can cause certain type of accidents as well. So altogether, this is about, when people are not agreeing anymore, and therefore it can lead to argument, demonstrations. The tension is kind of like boiling up here. Because all I want to do is I want to be protecting my freedom, my security, and I feel somehow threatened. So that's the Mars square Uranus element. The very next stop is Niobe. Niobe on the 28th of February. Sorry, it's on the, hold on, 1st of March, sorry. It's going to be entering the sign of Pisces. Niobe is astrological number is 71, if you would like to look it up where it is. And Niobe is the archetype of pride and the dissolution of that pride. Now, Niobe was a queen who boasted of her children and wealth, comparing herself to the gods, basically. And as a result, she lost everything and was transformed into this weeping rock. So in Pisces, which is already about crying anyway, this is surely about the dissolution of the pride, and then we are crying over the spilled milk. So Pisces is where we realize we are not separate from the whole, that we are kind of like not always protected. If one suffer, we suffer as well at the same time. So Niobe here suggests a period where the ego structures we were so proud of, something that we have built or produced or dreamt of, are getting softened somehow, even washed away, just to reveal a deeper, more vulnerable truth, let's say about the self. Niobe is about the eternal mourning. So in the sign of that fish, this is a collective catharsis. It's a collective mourning about something. Sometimes a good cry is also super helpful as well at the same time. So let's just not forget about that. Now, let me just give you the dates actually, because I forgot to give you that. So when we are looking at Atlantis 1198, like I said, it enters the sign of Pisces on the 23rd of February. So let's just have a look at how long Atlantis is going to be there. Atlantis spends approximately about 6 weeks in the sign. So this should be Atlantis right there. On the 4th of April. It's going to be changing sign on the 4th of April. Now, Niobe enters the sign of Pisces on the 1st of March, and then it goes approximately 2 degrees each week, and it's going to change sign around the 27th of May. Okay, so now you've got the dates there as well. And last but not least, I also would like to mention that the moon is out of bound between 23rd to 28th of February. And basically, it's going to start. Let me just go back to the chart so that you can see. It's going to start its out of bound journey in the sign of Taurus on the 23rd of February. It's going to be pretty much making a conjunction to Uranus. It's going to be entirely out of bound in the sign of Gemini and in the sign of Cancer. And then once it goes at the end of Cancer, it's gonna go back to inbound. Let's just talk about that a little bit. I mean, what's interesting here is that we have got the Uranus and Mars square going on, and then the moon, moon previously is already kind of making things a little bit more volatile. Now, if you don't know what out of bound planets are, basically these planets escape the laws of the sun. They are not visible towards the sun. They are kind of like operating outside of the sun's regulation, basically. So therefore, the moon becomes emotionally erratic, highly intuitive, more prone to extremes, especially when it's making a conjunction to Uranus. So, not to forget that we have got Algol involved there as well. So, Moon in Taurus, for example, would be a lot more grounded, a lot like slow and steady. But we have got this superconductor of Uranus and the out of bound element as well. So, this is carrying an emotional volatility here. This is an all or nothing feeling. Taurus rules resources, food, and the body. So, with that out of bound status, it can indicate extreme changes in your appetite, spending a lot more money, chasing physical sensations. And Uranus is sparking that up as well. So people might act completely out of their character, and therefore it can lead to certain type of frustrations. Now, that comes together with the Mars-Uranus square as well. Don't forget that on the 27th. But obviously, it's going to be already playing out beforehand as well. And, Mars in Aquarius, who wants to move fast, wants to disrupt the system, it wants to innovate something. And then Uranus in Taurus with that out of bound moon is kind of protecting its new territory, with some type of erratic intensity. So I can imagine some physical, technical glitches happening here, power outages, server crashes, sudden snaps at others, miscommunications, of course, with Mercury turning retrograde as well. It's kind of like a short circuit in the collective brain when people are losing their mind. So let's just be careful this week with those. With a lot of Piscean energy, it really feels like a bit of a meltdown as well, a lot of quiet internal and spiritual moment that we have to be able to practice. So it really feels like many of us are going to feel kind of like living into different movies at once. One is silent, a bit tragic, a bit beautiful, while the other one is a bit more high stake, a little bit of a thriller type of movie. So, which one you want to be in? Do let me know in the chat box below. I think this week, don't overschedule, because things will not go according to a plan, or leave a bit of a buffer time. Or, Taurus is the physical body, so you might want to be focusing a little bit more on the physical grounding element, salt bath and all those type of stuff. With Uranus, that's the nervous system, so we're gonna have to ground that nervous system a little bit. But you can use that out of bound moon to think outside of the box. So for a new project as well. So why not? So this is your um, weekly forecast, everyone. And then now we are going to be moving on to the 12 signs. But as I did in the last few weeks, I'm going to be uploading the signs separately so that you don't have to look for it. And then you just can go on your sun, moon, and rising sign. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.